spells that are being cast upon the collective is what we know as karmic retribution. But karmic retribution gets confused a lot with revelation of the method. So I'm going to be explaining the difference between these two and exactly what karmic retribution is. In my video, How Our Consciousness is Used to Create Reality, I talk about how the collective subconscious is tapped into and programmed to create negative timelines with our own free will and with our own sovereignty by giving our consent to have these negative timelines created, even though we don't actually realize we're giving our consent. So when this is happening, this is called revelation of the method, because the method is being revealed to us. And it's up to us now to not give our consent, or by giving our consent unknowingly, by simply not taking actions from our sovereignty and not taking actions from our awareness to not sign off on those timelines. So it's one of those things that happen by default. And this is a theme that you will constantly see happening when it comes to reality being created, whether it's our personal individual reality or whether it's collective realities. You will notice that there are default settings, and it's up to us to figure out and become aware of what those default settings are. Revelation of the method is the key and core default setting of this reality. If we don't recognize when we're being programmed and then do something actively, meaning taking an action that's in our sovereignty to stop that programming, then by default, we have given our free will consent away to creating that, even if we're not taking actions towards the creation of that, because at that point, it's our subconscious giving the consent away for our energy to go into that. So basically, another way of saying all of this is that if we do not become sovereign, then we by default give our energy away to those who will take it and will use our free will for their means. So, where does karmic retribution fit into all of this? Karmic retribution is one step more effed up than everything that I just described. So we could look at revelation of the method on one hand, and then karmic retribution on the other hand. And they're distinct branches, but they have similarities and they even overlap. So when it comes to specifically karmic retribution, what you're looking at is a whole art or a whole method at getting people to become your puppets. That's what karmic retribution is really about. It's about this third step, which is more than just tapping into your subconscious and therefore siphoning your thought and your emotions. This third step is what we could consider more important, and that is action. So when it comes to karmic retribution, you're no longer just passively recruited into creating reality. You are actively recruited into creating reality. Actively recruited into creating reality means that karmic retribution needs you to take an action on the powers that were's behalf. So what they're doing is manipulating people, just like wind-up toys. They're winding them up, but then it's up to the toy to go around walking and taking those actions. And that's what karmic retribution is about. It is when the elite, it is when the powers that were, whatever you want to call them, it is when they make people do their bidding for them, because then their hands are clean of the third and most important step, the step that will incur the most karma. So when a person takes an action on behalf of an order that was given by the powers that were, by the elite, that is karmic retribution. And the military-industrial complex, but specifically the military, is the biggest karmic acquirers of karmic retribution because they are taking the action. And whoever is the one that commits the action is the one that the karma gets linked to. So the elite or the powers that were, they know that. They know that if you can manipulate a person into doing the action, the deed, then that is the one who's ultimately responsible for the karmic burden of that action and that deed. Actions are responsible for creation, and actions are what's known as karma, which is why this whole method is called karmic retribution. Because personally, I would think of karmic retribution as meaning something about balancing the scales, but it's not in this case. It's the complete opposite. It's unbalancing the scales of karma to a very extreme degree. So karmic retribution is when you get other people to commit the crime for you. And when you get other people to be your little wind-up toys, to be your puppets, then ultimately it does not matter what was said or what was done to recruit others into taking on the karmic debt for their agenda. So revelation of the method is the passive form of creating reality because it is done through programming our subconscious. So it is the yin polarity. But karmic retribution is the active form of creating reality because we use our free will to perform an action that absorbs the debt for the powers that were. So that is the yang polarity of reality creation. Isn't that poetic? The latter depends on telling intentional lies, and the former depends on a half-truth. If love is consciousness, then evil is truly ignorance.